G'day everybody, thank you for tuning back into Albatross Barbecue. Today we've got ourselves a 6.1 wagyu grade 6/7 beef brisket. I've cooked plenty of briskets before, but I've got a couple of subtle differences today. Stick around and see what I'm going to do.
As you can see, this is a good sized brisket. I can't wait to get into the trim and I cannot wait to get this thing on the smoker. AJ is going to be joining me later on with this cook for when we get to the taste test. Jack's Creek here in Australia is known for good quality meat, and as you can see, there's some beautiful intermuscular fat and marbling on this brisket. Let's cut it up and get into it. The good thing with this brisket is that a lot of the trim has already been done. I've got hardly anything that I need to do. I don't want to make this video about the trim, which is why I've gone into fast forward mode. But as you can see, all I'm doing is I'm trimming away at some of the fat, which is sitting on the back end of the brisket. I'm going to shape the brisket up very, very slightly. In terms of the decal, pretty much leave that alone and worry about it after the cook so I can make sure I've got some nice tender brisket. In terms of the fat cap, hardly going to be trimming that at all. As you could see around the point, it was a little bit exposed, so I wanted to leave a fair amount of fat there. With those trimmings, I kept a few just so I can render that in the cook and mix that a little bit later on. But what I've got now is some beef stock. I decided to inject this thing with some beef stock to try and get a little bit more beefy flavor into this brisket. All I'm going to do is work with the grain and go along in lines and just try and get as much coverage as I can. Arguably, with such a good quality brisket, you don't need to worry about injecting, but I wanted to see what flavor I could get with this beef stock. Now the brisket is prepped, it's time to wrap it up, put it in the fridge, put it to bed, have a good night's sleep, and then we'll see you again in the morning. I prefer to season my briskets nice and early before the smoke. So here we go, 6 a.m, I've got the brisket out and we're going to start with a nice light coat of kosher salt and black pepper. I'm then going to hit this brisket with some Lane's Scorpion Rub. Now this rub has a number of ingredients in there, absolutely tremendous flavors. It's going to give it a nice color as well as a beautiful taste. So let's do exactly the same thing to the other side as well as the sides of the brisket. Once you're done, let that brisket rest. Let those spices soak into your brisket and get your smoker up to temperature.
You've got to love summer. The sun's up, the birds are chirping, the brisket is seasoned. I've got the Traeger fired up to 235 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm using my Traeger because I've got a few things to do today. So let's get this brisket on the Traeger. Two hours in, let's check it out. Quick spray with some water, then we'll keep smoking away.
Not much change at the moment, just let that brisket get plenty of smoke. I'm also going to throw in that brisket fat and let it render down.
5 hours in, quick check.
So a much better color now, the bark is starting to form, and from a temperature point of view, I'm starting to really hit that stall, so just let it keep cooking.
Alright, I've been smoking now for just over 7 hours. I've been in the stall probably for about 90 to 100 minutes. Let's check it out, wrap it up, and finish the cook.
How I'm going to be wrapping this today, firstly, I've got myself a rack. I want to raise that brisket off the bottom of that foil tray, and then I'm going to place a little bit of beef stock as well as that rendered down fat into the bottom of that tray. I've then got myself some butcher's paper and I'm going to place that over the top of the brisket. I watched this in a video that Myron Mixon did, and let's face it, he's one of the most successful barbecuers in the world. So I wanted to give this a go and then put my thick foil over the top of that. I have my ThermPro set up, one in the point, one in the flat, so I can keep my eye on the temperature.
As you can see, the point is cooking a little bit quicker than the flat, which is a little bit unusual. It's probably because I've got the flat on the cooler side of my smoker. So I've just twisted it around the other side. Let's see if it can catch up. But keep it cooking, keep it going until you get to that 203, 205 degrees, and then we'll give it a prod and see how she's feeling.
The point hit 203 degrees Fahrenheit, so I wanted to give it a probe just to see where it was at. And sure enough, that point was feeling nice and tender, but the flat wasn't quite there. So I wanted to put this back into the smoker for about another half an hour to really make sure that that flat was nice and tender.
Alright, so I've hit 203 in the flat now. When I took it out about 30 minutes ago, it still felt pretty good, but a little bit more tenderness is what it needed. Hopefully it's all done now. Let's put it out.
Sure enough, that's what this brisket needed. Giving it a little bit of a poke, a little bit of a prod, the tenderness was there. I was getting no resistance, even though the temperature was not telling me a magic number of 203 to 205. That's okay. Time to put it to bed and let it have a rest for a couple of hours. When getting this brisket out for the boys to enjoy some dinner, as you could see, it had a nice little jiggle and it was slicing absolutely beautifully. As you can see, it was still a little bit hot, but it had a good rest and we were hungry, so time to dig in. Pulling out a nice piece from the flat, it was bending over nicely, beautiful smoke ring, and getting another piece of flat out, it broke away beautifully as well.
Let's taste test. Small bit that I cut off would be good.
Oh, look at the jiggle jiggle. A little bit of a wiggle wiggle. As you can tell, look at that. Really nice. Very hot too. Here we go. It's really nice. Very juicy. As you can tell, beautiful smoke ring.
Nice little smoke ring. And a little test too. I'm happy with that.
You should be.
That is really good. Full of flavour. Perfect blend. Happy days. Barbecue friends.
Barbecue friends.
Thanks for watching, guys.
A fantastic result. All the boys dug in, thoroughly enjoyed it. Everyone had meat sweats. Thanks for watching, guys. Really appreciate it. We'll see you again in the next video.